Hello and welcome to Lockdown Beers and Rugby Chat here on Monday, the whatever it is, who lost track of 13th of September. There we go. Losing track of time. Nearly just under 55 seconds until we can open the beer. I'm on a Boundary Road Brewery beer today. Hopefully you've got yourself a beer to wind down at the end of the working day. A lot of people still working from home with lockdown here in New Zealand. In the chat today, we've got some news about Western Force coaching signatures, the USA versus Canada in their second Rugby World Cup qualifier, who will be America's one. A bit of chat about Rugby Championship scheduling. Also, the All Blacks have got a bunch of injuries. And I was expecting to have Farah Palmer Cup fixtures by now, but it doesn't look like they've quite been released. And joining me at the end of his working day, I've got Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very good. Thank you, Paul. I hope you had a good day and great to be on the show as always.
Yeah, a bit of a busy day. Been driving around doing my job around a lot of the supermarkets and stuff. Oh, I've missed it. 5 o'clock. There we go. There's the beer. And what is becoming a bit of a famous pour now. People got quite a lot of comments from my pre-game pictures from the weekend about whether I'd like to have a Cadbury's flake with my beer. But there we go. Perhaps the Australian rugby team, the Wallabies, can line me up with some Cadbury's flakes. I don't know. What do you think, Shane? You think they'll send me some over?
Yeah, I can. And I can tell you, Paul, Cadbury's hot chocolate is even better.
There we go.
And I know for sure.
It's all good in Australia, obviously, but over here in New Zealand, we're anti-Cadbury's since they shut down their factory in Dunedin about 2 years ago now. So it has to be Whittaker's. So I need a Whittaker's flake if they make one. I don't know. But there we go. So Shane, how are you keeping over there in Australia?
Good, Paul. We're actually out of lockdown. We've still got some basic restrictions, but it is back to, as we mentioned, the hot chocolate shop. So I can enjoy coffee every afternoon and sit down and have it. But look, we're hanging in there, and that's the most important thing is that things like the rugby last night keeps us united a lot.
Absolutely. And Stephen, keeping well up there in the 09?
In the 09, yeah. Well, unfortunately, Shane, we've just been told we're in level 4 for another week, so it means we can't stray too far from home unless you're an essential worker. And I'm not quite essential enough to work away from home at the moment. But you know what? It is what it is, and you're dead right. I was just thinking about what you said. Sometimes with so much great sport on TV, of course, the NRL finals just held over the weekend. And listen, last night I was truly in the Anzac spirit, I should say. And when that Quade Cooper kick went over, boy, I was jumping up and down. It was probably around about midnight here in New Zealand, and you probably made a bit too much noise.
Oh dear, the grandkids got woken up today. With that one, I've got blankers. What I was going to say actually. But there we go. So yes, I'm obviously down in Waihi, so I'm at level 2 for another week. Now, I was expecting to get some Farah Palmer Cup fixtures, and the website still says these will be released after Monday the 13th's COVID update. So clearly they've not quite been released yet. So tomorrow, do join us at 5 p.m. We'll go through the Bunnings NPC and the Farah Palmer Cup fixtures that we know about. This coming weekend, we already know that I will be at Waikato versus Canterbury on Friday night. So do keep an eye out for my post-match interviews, probably mainly on Facebook and Twitter, and also join me on Twitter for a chat during the game. Josh was saying, yeah, great TV shots of Quade at the end of the game. It has been a journey for him. Absolutely it has. And it's good to see Dave Rennie giving him a chance because I know a couple of coaches have washed their hands of him in the past and perhaps not handled him in the best way. But I give a lot of thanks to Sonny Bill Williams, didn't he, after the game on that one as to helping him get through stuff. But Shane, as a Red supporter, you must have been over the moon to see Quaid come back and have such a composed game.
Yeah, and an Aussie too. I mean, to beat the world champs is no easy task. Even will any rugby championship game against the Springboks it's bloody hard, to be honest with you. But to see Quaid and the way he played last night, and to see him structure the line. I know I harp on Twitter, particularly about how the Wallabies play the counter attack and punch through the line phase play. But can I tell you, it was so much smoother with an experienced 10 there last night. And obviously when Tate McDermott had that injury, Nick White came along and his experience as a more experienced 9 as well helped with the flow of that possession as well. So there was a lot of really positive things. Dave Rennie very humbly pointed out that there are a lot of things that have to be fixed, particularly in the maul defence and things like that. But when I sent a message to Cornflake last night, and everybody knows Steve from being on the show, a grown man, a 33-year-old grown man coming to tears over a Wallabies victory, certainly tells you how much that meant to all of us here. And to see Quaid probably just play the game of his life, probably the best game I've seen him play in a very long time, and the best rugby I've seen the Wallabies play in about 6 years.
And yes, look, folks, and this was up against, as we say, the world champs. And well done to the Wallabies for winning that. I've just put our Twitter handles down below because if you want to get in touch with Shane or Stephen or myself on Twitter for a chat, they're all there on the display. We've got to remember that these are the world champs. They haven't become a bad team overnight. If they'd made their kick, so they left 10 points out there. Look, it could have would have, should have. Who knows what would have happened if those had happened? But and they didn't. But look, that's a very good win by the Wallabies. As you say, the best they've played in a long time. Things came together for them on the night, and now the big thing for them is backing that up and doing it again next week. Talking of that, guys, what do you think of the actual fixture list? So the last time we had a proper rugby championship was back in 2018. That's kind of scary now, isn't it? That it's that far back, because Rugby World Cup meant it was shortened in 2019, and obviously 2020 we had the Tri-Nations. And the format back then, and it had been for many years, was you had Australia versus New Zealand playing each other for 2 games, and South Africa, Argentina playing each other for 2 games in the first 2 rounds. Then we had South Africa and Argentina heading over to Australasia, so they would then play. You would then get sort of All Blacks, Pumas, All Blacks, Springboks, and obviously the Wallabies, Springboks, Wallabies, Pumas. So not back-to-back games. You'd be switching teams, and then you'd head over to Africa and South America to play those 2 games over there. Here now we've got New Zealand versus Australia and South Africa versus Pumas first block. Second block, New Zealand, Argentina, and Wallabies, Springboks, and then third block, New Zealand, Springboks, Wallabies, Argentina. Do you think? Do you like that, having the back-to-back games of the same teams, or do you think they should have switched it up these last 4?
I think this has been structured simply around COVID to keep it. If there was a breakout, at least if there were 2 teams that played over the same 2 weekends and there was a breakout in one of the teams, I think it would be a heck of a lot easier to contain. I think COVID has got a say in how the structure of this tournament is being played at the minute. Listen, first of all, I'm just absolutely rapt that it's actually playing, because there were times, if you think back to the relationship with New Zealand rugby and Australian rugby 6 weeks ago, you thought, man, this isn't happening. So I'm just rapt that we're getting rugby, and I think a lot we're going to see moving forward is just based around COVID.
Yeah, very true. LB on the on YouTube is saying that he felt that they left as a box fan, they left too many points out there and fell short. But it's an easy fix fixes are controllable. I think what we've seen here in the box team was they don't travel well historically. I think we saw a bit of that last night as well. They hadn't got off the plane very well either. I think, and we'll see a different team next weekend. And another different. I'm going to say for the Wallabies, it's definitely going to be a matter of fronting up again.
Paul, I will say, I really wasn't surprised by that result last night, even though it's a shock to everybody. I always thought if the Wallabies could gain some sort of parity, I actually thought they showed enough against the All Blacks, even though the scoreline doesn't suggest it. They actually created a lot of chances, and they were playing a bit of code. And I think any team that comes up against the South African side, if you play a little bit of code against them, take their big forwards, because their forwards are basically bully boy forwards. And if you take them to places that they don't want to go to, then you're a chance. And even more still, boy, if you can actually basically front up at set piece time, and boy, those two scrums last night, they were just like gold. The one before half time, and the one obviously which led to the penalty. Yes, the Springboks left a lot of points out there, but if you look through these two sides head for head in terms of experience, quite frankly, the Wallabies, what do they rank, Shane, about 6th, 7th in the world? Probably shouldn't have even been living with the Springbok side. I don't think enough credit has actually been given to the Wallabies yet. Sure, the Boks didn't take their points, but I know with this Wallaby team at the moment, I think they'll gain a lot of confidence from this, to the point where, you know what, these guys are world champions, but they're beatable.
Absolutely. There you go, there, folks. There's the comparison in caps between the Springboks and the Wallabies. Thank you to Rugby Fixation Podcast for that graphic off Twitter. As you can see, he says 260-ish caps extra in the Boks starting side. Oh, look, the Wallabies had a fantastic game last night. Did really, really well. And a lot of those players, when you look at sort of players like Valentini, McDermott, Swinton, Bell, those guys all with, not quite single-digit caps, but also Kellaway and Ikitau. I mean, Valentini with 10, but with 2 handfuls of caps each. They'll have learned a lot and taken a lot of, as you say, a lot of belief that they deserve to be at this level on that one. Moving on then to other things, the All Blacks have got a whole bunch of injuries. Apparently, with already Ofa Tuangafasi, Patrick Tuipulotu, and Ethan de Groot weren't available this weekend due to injuries. They also rested Cody Taylor and Ardie Savea due to concussion, even though they could have returned. So those two will come back. And you've got some, and then Bowden Barrett apparently has got a tight calf. Stephen, are you getting a bit worried about the number of injuries the All Blacks picking up?
No, not at all at this stage. I think they've got a really, really good squad there, and they've got enough covered. I think for first 5, Damien McKenzie, or you could look at Geordie Barrett, who I think is an option, David Havili, and worst case scenario, TJ Perenara if you wanted to. But to be honest, TJ's the sort of guy, if you were leading by a decent score, you'd bring him on by, you'd probably move into first 5 in the last 10 minutes. I think they may have done it when they played Namibia at the World Cup, something along those lines. Injuries not an issue at the moment, but if they get any more out of the next game against the Pumas, then it could be a concern. But it looks like there's a lot of competition for places in this All Black teams. I wouldn't want to lose a key guy like, for example, Retallick, or even guys who are playing well like Papa Ali or Akira Ioane. I'd probably just put the mocker on them.
Dane, should the All Blacks, or should New Zealand fans be starting to get worried if Bowden Barrett's not available and no regular 10s in the squad?
Mate?
Yeah, Shane. Yeah. Sorry. Did I say Steve? I meant to say Shane.
No, as I've always believed, the playing pool for the New Zealand All Blacks is just, it's immense. There's so many, as Steve said, rightfully so. There's competition for positions, and I think that the way that New Zealand rugby train their players, they can play in multiple positions and do it with confidence. And I think, obviously you don't want key players to get injured, but there is enough depth to be provided there that they can confidently deal with anything that is on their approach.
Guy, I guess my only concern at the moment is that they just can't replace players from New Zealand. It's going to take at least 2 weeks. Plus, also the players over here haven't been playing due to COVID as well. But that and we've already seen that Whitelock won't be heading over to Australia for that fourth game, for the second Springboks game, but Richard Mo'unga will. Would love to see Whitelock running out for Canterbury in the NPC, and if he is there on Friday night, he'll definitely be somebody that I will try and get a post-match interview with folks at FMG Stadium against Waikato. Talking of the NPC and Mark Ozich, Stephen, someone that you know, has gone and got himself a new job over at the Western Force as their attack coach.
Yeah, he's a good story. He's obviously out of a local club, Shane, which is only probably about 5k away from where I live. So it's a really good story. You know, a kid that came through club rugby through his Croatian heritage, ended up playing Test match rugby for Croatia and probably one of the lower levels of international rugby. I'm not too sure what that is, Paul. Probably about tier 3, I would imagine. And then basically started his coaching career back at the Waitemata Rugby Club, progressed on to Hawke's Bay. He's done a fantastic job with Hawke's Bay, taking out the championship division of Mitre 10 Cup in 2021, but more importantly, bringing players through. He's had a little bit of involvement with the Highlanders development squad earlier in the year, and he's a really, really good pickup for the Western Force. And you know what he also brings is a bit of a little bit of IT as well. He'll basically know some players that they could pick up from New Zealand, because one thing I was really rapt about the Western Force last year, they had 2 Kiwi guys there, Jeremy Thrush and of course Richard Kahui. But boy, those guys were a big part of the performances of the Western Force last year, because despite their ages, they basically brought a lot to that side, and it was great to see that, don't you think, Shane?
Yeah, stories like this, where somebody gets a chance at a club, particularly as the Western Force coming up in Australian rugby, which is wonderful to see. He, as you said, the IP knowledge that he'll have from provincial rugby in New Zealand can be used to further the Western Force and Australian rugby over here. And maybe we mentioned playing pools before. Maybe he'll have some influence in maybe saying, look, there's this young fella over in New Zealand. Let's give him a Super Rugby chance if he can't get a chance with the 5 Super Rugby teams in New Zealand. So having people like that, having the IP, as you'd mentioned, Stephen, is only going to be beneficial in the long run for our sides as well as rugby in general.
Yeah, and the other thing is, he's I know he's got a very, very good scrummaging coach who I know Paul's had on the driving ball. Francisco is his first name, his second name, Francisco de la Fuente, I think is his second name. But he is a very, very good scrummaging coach, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Mark maybe drags him along as well. And that sometimes you get that with a package.
Well, it's funny to do, but Mark is going as attack coach, not as head coach, across to Western Force. So he's not the boss over there. So we'll see how that one goes. Talking of Croatian rugby, they've only been in existence since 1992. and their biggest ever international defeat came in 2017 against Malta, 56-8. Now, Malta is a very small island with very few people. So, Croatian rugby, I think you're being a bit kind at tier 3. I think we might be looking a bit below that.
Okay.
That one. I mean, they got locked out, apparently, the 2007 Rugby World Cup qualifying by Latvia and Andorra. And again, Andorra is another tiny place as well. So,
a good story. Mark's brother Milan, who was a hooker at the Waitemata Rugby Club, he also played for Croatia as well, and he said he made his Test match debut against they played Russia and Siberia, of all places, and he said there were 20,000 people there, and I said, "You're kidding me?" He said, "No, they were probably there to get soup."
Siberia is the heartland of rugby in Russia. And that's where the sides that have been in the European Challenge Cup have come from. Krasnodar, playing in -25 at times, which was just nuts. I'm surprised they're alive to come back to be honest after that game. Another big signing for the Force is off the field is Chris Goodman, who is coming over to run the Forces Academy, and he's been running the academy for the Crusaders, and we know how good that academy can be. So, I think so. A couple of good captures there for the Force, I think, and showing that the Force are slowly and quietly building the infrastructure that's needed for a long-term success, rather than just. Obviously, we've had the kind of flashy signings in your Thrushes and your Kahuis, but that's not going to last forever, and there needs to be more behind it than that. And I think they're now adding the substance, which is great to see. Now look, they only got told at the like with 2 weeks' notice they're going to be in Super Rugby AU 2 years ago, and they didn't really know they would definitely be in it this year, or they would have a competition next year, to be honest. So, look, it's no surprise that they've started that they didn't have these building blocks in place, to be in all honesty. Staying over in Australia, obviously, Stephen mentioned earlier that it was the NRL finals last weekend. Don't forget to join the Standoff show on Wednesday evening with Brad and Richie, where they'll take you through all of the NRL action. It's at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Go on, Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, very nervous as a Roosters fan. The team that I don't want to win, it looks like they're going really good at the moment, and it's probably looking at like a Rabbitohs, maybe Eels final at the stage if the cards fall the right way. But we still got a couple of weeks to go. I'm hoping the Roosters can improve their form. I think they were very, very fortunate to get across the line and beat the Titans.
I'll tell you that if the Storm don't make the final, I'll be amazed.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, the Storm. Forgot about them because they weren't playing the weekend.
I think the Storm are title favourites at the moment. LB says, more day games to cater to families. Look, it would be great, but the problem is with time zones. I can't see us and having games at a reasonable time for people in South Africa to watch. They have to be in the evening. So unfortunately, I can't see us having much more about that one. Apparently, Phil Gifford has offered a grovelling apology to Cooper. Wow. So there you go. On that one, there was a Rugby World Cup qualifier at the weekend where the USA took on Canada. The USA trailing after the first leg by 13 points to Canada, came out and initially it did not look good. Canada were leading 6-3 when the USA picked up their first yellow card, only for the USA then to score four more tries, or 4 tries in that first half, to lead 25-9 at half time. Hammerscheist, the flanker, scoring 3 tries, getting a hat trick in that first half. The USA went on to add 2 more tries, with Canada only picking up a penalty try after 80 minutes. Too little, far too late. So it finished 38-16. Unfortunately for Vanahana Schultz, he picked up his second yellow card as part of that yellow penalty try, getting a red card there after a tip tackle and then collapsing them all. So not a good combo. But the USA 38-16, when you're an aggregate 59-50. So America's won, but boy, they made a bit of hard work of it, didn't they, Stephen?
Yeah, which is a little bit of a surprise, this 2-match series, because if you think they've got the MRL up and running, which is in their favour, which gives their coaching staff a perfect opportunity to look around at all the talent that they've got, and based on some of their results over the last few years, they've had it on Canada. Canada was probably one of those countries that we thought back in 1991 when they made the semi-finals of the World Cup. I think they played a quarterfinal against the All Blacks in France, and in fact they only lost by about maybe 2 tries if I recall. And we thought, well, here's an opportunity for a country to go all the way, but they just really haven't kicked on, and in recent times have lost their way. But listen, it's good to know that they've actually made a series of it this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, trying to watch this game was impossible. So I can't really tell you what happened. I'm just going off the Tribe Sports app as to the sort of facts. So I've not been able to see this game. Hopefully, well, no, I just, having seen the mess of the first game, trying to get access to the second game will be impossible. So not expecting much from that. But that does mean that the USA are through to 2023, whereas Canada go through to the next section of qualifying. And the convoluted thing that is, I'm not going to try and dig out what that is yet. But look, it's a good result there, Shane, from the USA to when they knew they had to pick up a lot of points, really put the hammer down against Canada there.
Yeah, like yourself, Paul, I didn't get a chance to see any of the game, but I know that the US are obviously a regular fixture, as a Canada at Rugby World Cups. So they've done well to pick up the slack, got the win on the board, and they've congratulations to them. I see a lot of potential, like Steve, in Canada, but it's got to be something that probably just doesn't see their potential develop anything further. I remember the repechage game that they qualified for the last World Cup, and it was muddier than Australia's biggest salt lake, and that's pretty muddy. And I've seen Lake Armadius. It's a great natural sight, and it almost looked like Lake Armadius that they were playing on. So, good luck to Canada. They'll go through their. They've got other options to try and qualify. Well done to the US. I think that it's good to see other nations that we don't usually talk about, because we talk about the big 6 to big 8 nations. But it's good to see other nations be a part of this great game of rugby as well.
I think one of the keys is, guys, in those countries, is to having an age group level of rugby. I know they are in America. I think they're looking at maybe either an under 14 or an under 16 competition, because you want kids at a younger age to basically pick up these skills. And we spoke earlier before about all the talent in New Zealand. Well, that pretty much comes because both girls and boys are handling an oval ball pretty much from kindergarten, primary school, etc. So in countries like in the USA and also Canada, you want, in fact, all those lower tiers of the game, you want younger age group handling a rugby ball, so they get used to it.
I'm sorry, I need to correct myself here. The USA have not qualified for the Rugby World Cup. They now have to play off against Uruguay, and the winner of that will get a place at the Rugby World Cup as America's won. The loser of that game then has to take on either Canada or Chile, who are playing off a repechage to play the loser of that game. So it's not as clear cut as I thought it was. So the USA will be playing Uruguay on the 2nd and 9th of October, and Canada will be playing Chile on the 2nd and 9th of October as well. So there we go. So more games coming up, and those not as they're not part of that November international window. It's going to be interesting to see whether both the USA and Canada can get access to their play, and also Uruguay for that matter, get access to their players who are playing in Europe. But so it's going to be an interesting one there as to how that one goes out. Hopefully the clubs release players, but not a great record on that one in the past. Let's be honest. Folks, if you've enjoyed all of these lockdown beers that we're chats are bringing, then please head over to patreon.com NZ Sport Radio to help us out, because yes, we do spend a bunch of money on tech, etc., so we can produce these for you, and we would love your support in doing that. So head over to so it's patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio to become a supporter of the stuff we do. That's all the topics I had. Shane, Stephen, anything else that's hit your radar recently?
Yeah, just a couple of things I quickly want to touch on. Obviously, the Twitter sphere went pretty crazy after last night's game, and some of the comments pretty much cracked me up no end, especially some of the comments in and around Quade Cooper's citizenship. Give the man citizenship now. Totally agree with that. I even said to Shane, mate, have you got any influence over there? He said, not really, but one of the ones I especially liked from today was from Mark Stafford from the TAB. Questions from last night's test: was Quade Cooper whitebaiting last week? Is there a movie being made about him? Will he be at SENZ Radio next host? That's a new sports radio station here in New Zealand. But the Quade Cooper whitebaiting question was referring to one Stephen Donald, who was whitebaiting when the All Blacks ran out of first fives back in 2011, and he was called into the All Black team. Ended up playing in the final of that Rugby World Cup, and his jersey looked rather tight. So I replied to Mark Stafford, jersey fitted well on Cooper, so probably not. Maybe not a movie, but just treating the man with a bit of respect if he ever runs out on a rugby field in New Zealand again. And I think that's the best thing, the way Kiwis can celebrate the guy, because I think, despite of an incident that happened many years ago, I think a lot of New Zealand rugby supporters just held on to that for far, far too long. So, for me, just a great story of redemption for Quade Cooper. And I must admit, you spoke about Cornflake having a tear in his eye. I must admit, me as well, simply because the guy was born in New Zealand. He left to go to play rugby in Australia when he was 13 years. And I'll tell you what, that's something that really is a story he can tell his grandkids, to knock over a penalty, what you would call a clutch penalty. It wasn't an easy kick. And I'm pretty sure there must be a really, really good feeling in Australia today, Shane.
Yeah, Steve, it was to correct that story. It was me messaging Cornflake to say I had a tip, grown 33-year-old Australian male. But in all honesty, look, it's a great story, and it goes back to 1997 when David Knox, 35-year-old playing at the Brumbies, who hadn't played a test in 3 years, was pulled out of obscurity to play the Springboks. And that was another Wallabies win that night as well. And he was virtually best on ground. So Quade has earned his redemption. And I've got to say, I know there was controversies with Robbie Deans, and there was injuries and second chances given by Checker. Sorry, Michael, we don't want you to coach Wallabies again. But we've found, Quade's found redemption. And yes, we've been critical of Dave Rennie, the coach, at times, more so of his appointment, definitely not of him as a person. But he made the right call last night to bring in Quade Cooper, bring back Samu Karevi from Japan. Sean McMahon is coming on his way. I think Hannah Pasami and Lucan Saikolodo can come back into the bubble shortly as well. So the Wallabies have some options coming up, and hopefully it's going to be the options that are going to make us a more competitive rugby nation. Scott Johnson, our director of rugby, who's a brilliant rugby mind, I think I've started to come across to his point of view that we are in the top 8 rugby nations. We've just got to be a competitive rugby nation that gets the wins, and when we lose, we're ultra competitive. So I can start to see where Australian rugby is heading from.
And more importantly, you're building some depth in some key positions. I love that combination that Quade Cooper had with Karevi last night. They just knew how to find each other all the time. And if you think, we've got a rugby group chat, and I sent a message to our group today, and basically it was along the lines of, I like the depth that you're building in midfield. You got Hunter Paisami, Samu Karevi, Jordan Pataya, Matt Tumua, Reece Hodge, and there's another guy who I think, boy, if he's ever given half a chance at this level of rugby, is Isaiah Parisi from the Waratahs, who's a genuine line breaker. And all of a sudden, you're creating depth in positions. You look at your 2 halfbacks. You got 2 world-class halfbacks at the moment there. And all of a sudden, you start building that depth, and away you go. Obviously, you're still thin in a few areas, but I still think if you were able to bring maybe the Arnold brothers back to New Zealand, you've got Isaac Rodder. I'll tell you what, you're looking really good. I don't think the Wallabies have quite found their loose forward balance yet. I'm not convinced on your 6 at the moment, Lockie Swinton. I just think probably ill discipline is a bit of an issue for him. But I love the way they bring Pete Samu off the bench, and I'm really super excited about the talent that you could have on the wings. It's a real shame you're going to lose Marika Korobeti overseas, but I love the look of Suliasi Vunivalu. I think he's got some talent, maybe a little bit weak under the ball, and also Delgunu as well. So, man, you're slowly building, seriously, and I love the way that Dave Rennie is, or the direction he's taking this team. As Paul will tell you, I'm a fan.
No, absolutely is, and he says a lot about that. The LB says the Aussie backs are elite. You can't stand White, and he's crying to the ref every 2 seconds though. Yeah, I think Fafney's clapping also upsets other people as well. Yeah, look, scrum halves, shut up. It'd be lovely if every scrum half should go on with a gag, just they can't shout, can't say a word. That'd be fantastic. But there we go. Look, we've been going for the half an hour, folks. Look, we've been hopefully we're helping you guys get through lockdown. We're here to just kind of entertain and help you get through this. Thank you, everybody who has behaved and followed the rules in lockdown and helping us get those numbers down, so we will come out of it as soon as possible here in New Zealand. And folks, yes, it's tough, but keep in touch, have a chat with your neighbours, make sure you're all okay, because look, let's get through this safely as a group. Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you very much, Shane, for joining me. And we're back tomorrow at 5 p.m. with the daily Lockdown Beers Rugby Chat. Also, tomorrow evening, we'll have the Driving Maul show, where we'll spend a lot of time looking forward at next weekend's games in the Rugby Championship.